the crypto market has been super boring for the past 4 months now, except for this decent bear market rally that Bitcoin made a 43% move to the upside, and also many altcoins made an easy 2-3x. Apart from that, we are basically moving sideways, and it feels like forever at this point. And here comes the main problem. This is the perfect setup for many people to destroy their accounts, because the price doesn't go either up or down, and if you're a day trader, there are not many opportunities out there for such a long time. And also, if you're a long-term investor, you're still waiting to buy at lower prices, but they just simply don't come. So in both situations, many people just get fed up with this price action and decide to enter the crypto market because they want to be in the game. They want to see the potential returns. They want to be excited about something. When in reality, these are just mind games and you should really be sitting on your hands right now, because what potentially can come within the next few weeks can be devastating. I'm talking about the potential Bitcoin and respectfully the crypto bottom. I don't want to sound smart here and give you predictions on when we're gonna see the crypto bottom, how low we're gonna go and all that, but I said many times on this channel that I believe there's a very high chance to see Bitcoin bottoming around mid-November. And that's mainly because if we go back to the previous cycle and measure from the top, which was on the 17th of December 2017, to the bottom, which occurred on the 15th of December 2018, we can see that the bottom came exactly 1 year after the top. But that was not the only time Bitcoin bottomed 1 year after its all-time high. If we go back to the cycle before that, in 2013, we can see that Bitcoin puts its new all-time high on the 13th of November 2013, and on the 14th of January 2015 found its bottom, which is exactly 1 year and 1 month and a half. So when we talk about the markets, there are literally countless things we have to consider in order to determine where the market is heading and what we have to expect. So even though there is a high chance history to repeat itself, we don't have to expect the exact same outcome, but history can be a very good reference point that can give us rough estimates for the future price action. One more thing I want to point out to explain to you why do I think around mid-November we can probably see the Bitcoin bottom is the time measured from the Bitcoin halving to the bottom in the previous cycle. Basically, these vertical yellow lines represent Bitcoin halvings, and if we measure the days between the bottom and the halving, we can see that on both occasions the bottom is around 500 days before the halving. So we have around 1 year from the all-time high to the bottom and around 500 days from the Bitcoin halving back to the bottom. So now, let's check how this looks on the current cycle. We got to 69k on November 10th, 2021, and 1 year later is of course November 10th, 2022. The funny thing is, when I measure 500 days from the next Bitcoin halving back to the potential bottom, we can see that 500 days are exactly on November 10th. Now, this doesn't mean on November 10th Bitcoin's bottom will occur, but we should consider this as a very rough estimate and a very high chance in my opinion to actually happen sometime in November or December, because nothing happens on the exact date and the factors that influence the market are just so many. For example, on Thursday we expect the advanced GDP numbers to come out, which will have a high impact on all markets. On Friday we have the core PCE price index, which will have a high impact as well. And if we go to the next week, you can see we have loads of important data coming up, but without a doubt everyone will pay the most attention at these three: the FOMC statement, federal funds rate, and the FOMC press conference. Of course, on Friday next week we'll see the unemployment rate numbers as well, which are also very important. And if we go even further into the week after, on November 10th the CPI numbers will also come up. So overall, the next few weeks can be crucial for the direction the market is going to take. So the point of making this video now is to warn you about the potential downside action on the crypto price, and that probably the best thing you can do right now is to sit on your hands and remember that still cash is king. There is a lot of uncertainty in the markets right now, and until we see a good sign of inflation starting to go down and the Fed actually pivots, there is no reason to FOMO into the market because Bitcoin dropped to 18k for example, or is pumping to 21k, especially if you have plans to invest in small cap altcoins. That would be the worst idea ever. Just because you like an altcoin and it's down 50x from its all-time high doesn't mean it will go back to its previous all-time high and even surpass it in the next bull run. There are so many crypto projects that don't survive through these bear markets, and the last thing you want is to gamble with your hard-earned money. I know there's an absurd amount of potential to make a fortune from one of these altcoins by getting 100 or 200x ROI, but this high returns comes with high risk. We definitely have to mention the probability that 17.6k was the bottom and we won't go lower from here and we are just consolidating now. Because one of the things many people point out is that the top of the last cycle was actually in April, and I can agree that many indicators are suggesting that this was the technical bottom. But if we measure 1 year from the first top to the 17.6k, that's way more than 1 year. And also, If I measure from the Bitcoin halving back to 17.6k, that's also way more than 500 days. Of course, like I said, if we assume that history kinda repeats itself, we know that it doesn't repeat on the spot and it gives us rough estimates. So even though these estimates are way too rough, there is always a chance that that's actually the case. So if, let's say, you're a long-term investor and you like to DCA into the market, that's actually historically low prices and it might be a great idea to DCA right now. Bear in mind that Bitcoin can drop another 50% from here and the altcoins can drop even more. So if you DCA now and it turns out we don't go lower, you're gonna be in a fantastic position for the next bull market, having your entries around the bottom, and people who waited for a lower prices to get in are going to miss on those gains. Or do they? If we go back to the previous cycle again, we can see that we spent quite some time in the 3 to 4k range and we actually revisited these lows more than 1 year after on the March 2020 dip. So if you missed getting into the market during this huge window because you thought we can go lower, you still had a chance to get into on a close to bottom price. The cycle before that, the same thing. That was a big sell-off event and not many people managed to get into these very low prices, so most of the people bought around these prices here. And as you can see, not even a year after that, we revisited these prices and you could have bought around the bottom again. So what I'm trying to say here is, the downside potential right now is definitely here. And considering how bad the economy looks, and I'm not even talking about the US, because the inflation in Europe is double the numbers of the US, the UK is in a very bad situation right now, China's economy is about to collapse, and pretty much the whole world is struggling, and not to mention the things that are going on in Ukraine. And we have absolutely no clue how this will end up and how much worse it can go. So the chance of going low from here, in my opinion, is probably like 80%. And we must say that when we are going up, everybody is saying that we are going higher, and it didn't feel realistic we can drop down to 17.6k ever again when we were at 69k last year. And when we are in a bear market, everybody is calling for lower prices. But the situation right now doesn't provide any positive sign for the end of the bear market. So as long as the inflation stays high and the Fed keeps increasing the interest rates, I don't think we can talk about going into a bull market. But considering the fact that so far we had a second chance to get into the market around the bottom price, if we somehow start to go up from here, we are probably not missing anything. So taking the risk here is definitely not reasonable to me, and I wouldn't recommend to anyone to get into when we are in such a key moment where we can literally go either way. Of course, none of this is financial advice and that's just my personal opinion. I highly recommend you to do your own due diligence and make your decisions based on that. I'll keep providing updates on the crypto market, so if you don't want to miss any future videos, consider subscribing. Also, if you found this video useful, please give me a thumbs up, this will help my channel a lot. That's it for now and I'll see you in the next one.